your life as far as the
My
law
God,
is
I can't
concerned.
remember his name.
You name it, we answer it. All right. Estates, we talk about them. You need a will, you need a trust. What's the difference? How about auto accidents? How about dog bites? How about medical malpractice? How about contractual issues? How about criminal issues? How about divorce? How about custody? How about child supports? How about something like that that's going on in your life? That's why I say at the beginning of this broadcast, I always say the same thing because there's a reason. I see what happens at the end of it. We never are able to get all the calls on that we need to before we wrap the program up. So if you got any legal questions or problems going on in your world, give us a call right now. I have 3 lines in Youngstown open. I'm going to give you the number out momentarily. Stand by. I have 3 lines in Youngstown open, and then I'll hook you up with the lawyers that answer your question, point you in the right direction, do the best we can do without giving you a bill. So any legal things going on or any legal questions you might have in your world, pick up the phone right now, 330-729-9977. 330-729-9977. One more time, and I'll go slow. If you have a legal question, call me now, 330-729-9977. That's the phone number to get through. That'll get you in our rotation. That'll get you free legal advice on the longest running legal show, and that'll make sure we have plenty of airtime to answer your specific question. 330-729-9977. The goal is always to point you in the right direction, answer your question, solve some of your problems. That's what it's all about. It's all brought to you by Beatrice Kopp on News Radio 570 WKBN. Let's see if the namesake is with us this week. Is Attorney David Beatrice there?
I am present and accounted for, and I am solo tonight, Ron.
Well, that's a good thing.
There is
Boy,
not
it's
a
been
person with me. Let's take attendance. Jim Melfi?
No.
Jim Melfi.
No.
Frank Cassis, are you here?
No, he's not there.
Hi, I'm
either.
here, David, but I can't do the show.
No, he's not there.
Okay. Is Mark DeVecchio here? Mark?
No.
I'm all
There's
alone.
only one. You know what? We got an army of one. We only need you. I mean, how many programs over the 35 plus years have we done just together, just the two of us?
I use the stool that Frank puts his feet on when he sits in the chair. I'm using it, to kind of prop my feet up a little bit.
Well,
Frank,
I want you
when he sits in the chair, his feet really don't touch
I want
the
you,
floor.
David, at full attention. I want the best of Attorney Beatrice.
You got the best
tonight.
of them right now. Let's go.
All right,
go.
so
Let's
we
take some calls.
We start with line 1 with Attorney Beatrice. You're on the air. Hello.
Is it me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Look, the car wash chain that you see all over town has this giant sign that lists what they're not responsible for.
Yeah.
It's like they could beat the hell out of your car. Is that binding, or are they really liable if they damage your car?
I think that if they give you fair warning that if you have these things on your car and they're damaged, that they're probably going to be absolved of that. I had a friend that sued them and they settled. So, I mean, if you have some of those things, I wouldn't run it through that car wash.
Well, all cars have mirrors, and that's one of the things on the list.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible.
Yeah, but
there
does
must
your
be
mirror
things
really
that
come
all
off?
cars have.
My mirrors fold in. So when I go through, I fold the mirrors in.
I will tell you this, so true story for this caller and for you. It actually ripped the housing off of my wife's, one of my wife's mirrors. That when she went through, plastic housing off of it, and they went back in and got it for her, but it had to be replaced with a new one at the dealership. It's about a $400 mistake.
Did they pay for it, or they said no?
No, they didn't pay for it.
Yeah. So I think if they give you fair warning, I mean, that's like saying, hey, if you ride your bike down this hill, you could trip and fall, and you trip and fall, they're giving you a warning.
Yeah. Thank you for your call, because, just like the advice you said, it's like, hey, you were warned, it happens. Don't do it again, or whatever. Ultimately make the decision. I mean, if you could talk a little bit, if you go skiing, David, there's a chance, if you're going to ski down a hill in the wintertime, that you could get injured. I mean, sometimes there's risk in things.
If you go to a ballpark and you get hit with a foul ball, that's an assumed risk. Golf course,
really?
Same way. So
because you're,
life is filled with perils. and
Yeah.
they're warning you ahead of time. Hey, you got antennas, you got this, you got that. These could be damaged.
Well, it's like two things that you've said over the years that I think really hit home with a lot of people. For example, everybody thinks if I slip in a store in the wintertime that it's somebody else's fault, or if I slip in a parking lot because it's snowed and it's icy.
Right.
No, it's wintertime here in Ohio, and that can happen, right?
Yeah, we call premises liability cases, especially trip and falls, slip and falls. Those are really hard cases. I mean, they're difficult cases. But there are circumstances in which we've won. I'll give you an example. Client was walking into an establishment, slipped on ice, fell, and broke their hip. And the insurance company defended on natural accumulation of ice and snow. We inspected the property, and what they did is they took the downspout, and the downspout ran right across where they had people walking in. Well, that's not a natural accumulation of ice and snow. They actually changed the course of where the water would go and had it go right across where they had people walking in. So the jury found for us in that case. So if it's an unnatural accumulation of ice and snow, or they do something to worsen the condition, you might have something to talk about. We have a lot of people that there has to be something more than you falling at their store. Okay.
Right. And another thing that I think is important that you point out to, actually, I think there's two things I want to cover that's important that you point out to people. The second one that you point out is just because you have a bad outcome from a medical procedure isn't medical malpractice.
No.
But everyone thinks, oh, I got a medical malpractice case.
Yeah. Look, a bad outcome is something that can happen from surgery. You could be in the most sterile environment and get infections. Surgeries can be unsuccessful. Okay. There are known risks to surgeries. I lost a malpractice case one time because my client was going in for a bilateral salpingo oophorectomy.
What?
My client was having a bilateral salpingo oophorectomy.
Well, what?
That's a hysterectomy. Anyways,
Oh, okay.
Since it was a bilateral salpingo oophorectomy, both of her fallopian tubes were being taken out. And
you're almost like a doctor at this point.
Yeah. So those, I don't know if you realize it, but those scalpels are very sharp. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're in there with those scalpels, even in the most trained hands, they can nick things unintentionally. So they nicked my client's ureter. I can't even remember it. And I said that they should have checked that before they closed her up. They closed her up, found out that they had nicked it, opened her back up, and restitched her. And I lost that case because it was a known risk of the surgery. And so those are tough cases.
Right. So a bad outcome isn't necessarily medical malpractice.
And there's known risks of surgery. Like, did you know that going under anesthesia, you can die from that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of the known risks.
And that's kind of the forms you have to sign before all this stuff that no one reads?
Well, just because they tell you about a risk doesn't mean that if they did something wrong or shouldn't have done something wrong, okay? Our philosophy on malpractice cases is you either have to be dead or permanently injured. Because if you're not, they're so hard to bring.
And expensive.
And they're expensive. And they're so hard to win. There's a lot of malpractice that goes on out there. I think It's the fourth leading cause of death in the country. I could be wrong on that statistic, but it's up there about unnatural causes of death. Medical mistakes are up there. A lot of people just don't want to sue their doctor. The human body is an amazing thing. It has amazing recovery powers.
But two people might be totally different with the same procedure on recovery.
Yeah, exactly. I had a client come in just this past week. Okay. And I don't want to say where he went, but he thought he broke his arm, went to a place, and they said, no broken arm. And a week later, he went back to his doctor and they re-x-rayed it and they said, well, you have a broken arm. So they casted it. And I said, yeah, they missed it. You have no case. He goes, what do you mean I have no case? I go, you're in a cast an extra week. What's that worth? It's not worth a whole lot, especially when I'm going to have to hire someone and hire a couple experts. So, you have to be seriously injured. And look, these doctors, actually lawyers make medicine more safe. Can you imagine if you had a system where doctors could not be held responsible for mistakes they make? Do you think there'd be a couple more mistakes if they knew that they could not be held responsible?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Or if you knew that going through a stop sign, no one could do anything to you if you hurt someone, how many stop signs are you going to stop for? So having tort law makes the world safer, actually. Your cars are safer because of lawsuits. Your workplaces are safer because of lawsuits. When they blow in your eye now when you go get an eye test, do you know that was off of a malpractice case? That was a standard procedure for an eye exam for glaucoma now. I think it's glaucoma where they put a little puff in your eye. There was actually a lawsuit over that. Your roads are safer. Medical device, anything you could think of. Your electronic devices are safer. Now, do they go overboard sometimes with the warnings in the thing? Yeah, but you look at those instructions; they're pretty complete, and they're having lawyers write those. So someone could say, "Well, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to put I had someone die up at the lake. They took why they did it, I don't know. They took a 30 or 50 amp cord and somehow stuck it into a 30 amp box and it electrified the water and they got electrocuted."
Yeah, not their fault. I mean, for doing something like that.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to mention to you, you often talk about this. I mean, sage-like advice, really, from Attorney Beatrice, just from the experience he has over the years. And, you talk about debit cards and credit cards, and I'll let you talk about that momentarily. A friend of mine, true story, never had a debit card, doesn't get a debit card, doesn't use a debit card, doesn't own a debit card. Somehow, someone applied for a debit card on his bank account, had it sent to not his address, but an address in New York. That actually the bank gave the debit card, sent it to New York, and they drained $15,000 out of his bank account.
Wow.
They knew how much money he had in a bank account. They drained $15,000, and he was able to get his money back.
Yeah, because the bank sent the debit card to not where he was living.
Right, and nor did he request one, nor did he, or any of that. You're all the
now
charges were in New York.
I've been using my debit card a little bit more because they have the tap thing now, where you don't have to stick it in. You could just tap it. And so I've been using my debit card, not a lot more, but a little bit. If I could tap it, I feel good with that because that's a chip. And that's a chip on a reader. And I only use it at say Myers or Giant Eagle or something like that. Because I know there's not scammers there. I don't use them at gas stations, any gas station.
But I'm surprised to hear you say that. We're talking about Attorney Beatrice because just one follow up to that guy with, and it's a true story. He's not the only one. 3 or 4 other people at that bank also had this happen to them and money come out of their accounts. He also at the same time had his Bank of America credit card somehow. They got that somehow, and we're doing charges on that. But right away when he notified the Bank of America company, everything was dealt with. I mean, you always say use a credit card, never use a debit card.
Right.
Tell people why that is.
Because the debit card comes right out of your bank account, and a credit card, you can dispute that. Well, once that money's gone, and so what happens is if you give someone your debit card and they have those numbers, okay, and then they get those numbers, they can get that money right out of your bank account. There's no way to kind of trace it, okay, as opposed to credit card fraud. Now, many of the listeners out there should have electronic banking, even if you don't use electronic banking, because you could set up notifications that the bank notifies me anytime money leaves my account. I get an email. Okay. If any money's transferred, I get an email. All of my credit cards, I have them set up for $1. So anything gets charged of $1 on any of my credit cards, I get an email from the credit card company immediately. And then
from your bank as well on your other accounts?
From my bank accounts. And you could set that up with your credit card companies also. Now, I got to tell you, the firm has about 20 credit cards that we use different things for. So, I get a lot of emails, but I know that I look at every one, because my employees are not, I trust my employees implicitly, but, I'm looking what they're charging. And if I see something that it's out of the ordinary, then I go over and I ask. It's usually medical records or police reports or things of that sort.
But in general, you say to the listeners, you should always use a credit card, not a debit card.
Yeah.
In general, because you're not protected on a debit card.
Now, some debit cards have protection with them, but you should really check with them. And these ATM machines, I would never put my debit card in an ATM machine. I'd only put a credit card in an ATM machine, and they make money off of you. I mean, they charge you some money to use your credit card to get money. Okay. I try to keep my credit cards. I try to pay them off every month. This past month with the boat, though, it got a little rough. I got to pay.
But before I get into that, but there's one other thing I just want to make sure I put out there. You also say, in your case, people should have this LifeLock as well.
I have
right?
LifeLock. I love it. I get a notification.
Which just pretend.
It's worth. I forget how much they charge you.
It's not too much.
It's not too much, but it's well worth the money. Like anytime, I'll get an alert from them, even if they have a data breach of passwords. That's the thing that drives me nuts, Ron, these freaking passwords. And they tell you got to change them all the time. And then, I used to have a book that had everyone's phone number in it. And then, I don't know how these iPhones work and all. It's supposed to keep it, but sometimes it doesn't. And then you're trying to figure it out. And then you're going in and
to talk with Attorney Beatrice tonight on your particular situation, your particular question that you might have. Dave has practiced in basically all forms of law over how many years now, David? How many years? A lot.
40 years. Will be, this November 3rd or 5th will be 40 years for me.
Yeah, in all realms of it. I mean, whether in the beginning they did everything from, divorce to child support and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you've been in all these different arenas, if you will, when it comes to the law. And then, of course,
and a friend of mine, which I just agreed to do it. Why? I don't know. But a friend of mine said, "Would you be my guardian?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll do it for you." And oh boy, that's a pain in the neck. Let me tell you, I don't do it regularly, so I really have to call they're so good. Judge Rusu's magistrates are so good because I'm always calling them. I'm going, I don't know how I got roped into this, but you're like responsible for that person. So they'll call me.
Yeah, but
he's
got a great reputation in running that.
He's a good guy.
Probate
great
court.
Great judge. That's where everyone's at
All
tonight.
right.
Judge DeSalvo is having a fundraiser, and so Mark's singing at it, and Frank's attending it, and Jimmy's attending it, and I'm here doing the show.
All right, there you go. Stand by. Callers, stand by. Back with Attorney Beatrice after the headlines. Stay tuned.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival, presented by Capital One, is back in Vegas.
T-Mobile Arena.
September 19th and 20th, streaming live only on Hulu. 15
All right,
I got
you're on
my,
the air.
I got Frank,
All right.
Jimmy,
All
Mark,
right. Dave's on his
Brian,
own.
Daniel.
Nobody's
No,
around.
I'm all alone again.
There you go.
There
Caller,
it
you're on the
is.
air.
Put it all
Hello.
on my back. The mule. Put it on
There
the
you go.
mule's back.
Yes,
ahead.
dear. Go ahead with your comment.
Yes, thank you, Ron, for taking the call. Attorney Beatrice, I wanted to know if a car is stolen from your property or your garage, are you responsible for any damages that may be done to it, to another vehicle
No,
with this vehicle?
no,
No.
not at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. With Attorney David Beatrice, you're on the air. Hello.
Is that me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. I got a question. If in Ohio, my wife and I got a condo. We're both on the deed. I'm on the loan. And if I was to pass away, is she responsible for the loan? Or can she just sell it? Or can she just walk away from it?
She's not on the loan. Her name's not on the loan.
No, she
No.
could walk away from it, but they're going to take the whatever equity you have in it. You have equity in your property?
Okay. Yes.
Well, then why would you walk away from it?
No, I'm just saying, is she responsible for the loan
No,
if I
if
pass
she's
away?
not on the loan, no.
Okay.
If she
But she
didn't
would have
sign
the
the
right to
mortgage
sell it if
note,
she wanted to.
if she didn't sign the mortgage note, and she didn't sign, and she's not indebted to the bank, that is your debt.
Okay.
All right.
And
But
she
she
does
inherits
have the right
that.
to sell it.
What?
Does she have the right to sell it if she wants after I die?
Well, how is it deeded? Joint tenants with right of survivorship?
I don't know. I know we're both on the deed. That's all I know.
It's probably joint tenants with right of survivorship, which would automatically go into her name. And yes, she could sell it, okay, and then pay off the bank and pocket the rest. And if she's listening,
Okay.
you're probably going to get poisoned tonight.
Yeah, I know. I wonder about that.
Yeah.
Be careful.
All righty. Thank you.
Ron, did I tell
Thank
you what
you.
I did?
What?
It was a little crazy.
I'm waiting.
I can't tell you.
No, I got to know now.
No, it's kind of a
No,
wild
I'm not.
No, it's kind of a wild story.
I'm sorry. I can't
got a
go any
tattoo.
further. What?
I got a tattoo.
You've got to be kidding me.
Nope.
At your age?
I got a tattoo.
At your age?
At my age, I did.
What is wrong with you?
Well, you got to hear the story. You want to hear the story? It's a great story.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So I'm at the boat, and I'm with some of my friends, and they're younger, and they call me Grandpa. Okay, they say, "Hey, Grandpa, you want to go get a couple beers with us? It's Bike Week in downtown Sandusky." And I said, "Okay, I'll go get a couple beers with you guys." So we're walking down this main street, and it's huge. The Bike Week is the biggest bike show in the Midwest. I mean, it's dangerous. Okay.
Mm.
Happens to be a tent there, and a guy's doing tattoos. And all of these guys, they're younger than me. They're all in their 30s. And they go, "Grandpa, you got a tattoo?" I said, "No, I don't have a tattoo. I'm not getting a tattoo." And they go, "Oh, what are you?" And they called me a certain name.
Yes.
I said, "No,
yes.
I'm not that. I just don't want my wife, yelling at me that I'm getting a tattoo." And they go, "Oh, well."
As she should, justly so.
Well, let me tell you what I did. And they go, "Oh, so you're afraid of your wife?" I said,
Yes.
I
Yes.
said, "I am
yes,
not
you are.
afraid of my wife." I walked
That is
into
a lie.
Wait a minute. I walked into the tattoo tent, and I said to the guy, "Can you put Pam on my upper arm?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Tattoo it on." And I said, "There." And I go home, right? Everyone's going, "Oh, how nice. You tattooed your wife's name on your arm." I said, "I absolutely did." And I said, "How could she get mad at me?" So I'm going to make like a little tree out of it. It's covered up. You can't see it. I'd have to wear short sleeves for you to see it. But I'm going to put my kid's name on and make a little tree.
Where is this tattoo on your arm?
It's on my upper forearm.
Your upper forearm.
And it says
what?
Pam.
Right,
but then if
right
I
or
hold
left?
Right. But if I hold it up, if I fold it up, it says Pam down and Mad up. So that's basically what it's like in my life. Pam is
on your
mad.
upper forearm.
Yeah.
Why,
Oh,
why
well-
wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you put it up at least on your, like on your upper shoulder, or not shoulder, your upper arm, where a sleeve would cover it
I
up?
told her she's gonna go. I got to go into the dirt with her now.
What
Okay.
did she say when? What
She
did
just
she
raised
say?
her eyebrows. But most people I show it to, most of the women I show it to, go, "Oh, how romantic! Like that's really cute that you did that." It asked me if it got me any brownie points.
No, it
No,
would
zero.
not.
I got
I'm going to tell you.
eyebrows
I'm going to tell
raised.
you what happened. Right? How clean was the needle? That's that. I bet you there's a million questions about sanitary conditions.
No, it's fine.
You got a tattoo from a guy in a tent?
Yeah.
I can picture Pam. I know what Pam would say. You got a tattoo from a guy in a tent? You
I
put my name
basically
on
did.
there? Did he use it? Was it a clean needle? Did
Yes,
you see him
he took
sterilize
it.
it?
I saw him take it out of a plastic thing. I saw all of it. And
How
then you want
big
to know
is
what
her
happened to
name?
me on the boat this past weekend?
What?
So, have you heard of these things called mayflies?
Not really.